I never thought family dinner at a restaurant would turn into a nightmare. My mom, Lisa 56, thought she kept her hidden, but my aunt had been holding a grudge for years. When she exposed everything in front of us in random diners, the entire place rose. The shouting, the lies unraveling, and the looks from strangers, it was like a movie. But the ending? Even worse than I expected. So this blew up just last week, and I'm still trying to wrap my head around it. For context, my mom, Lisa, is 56. She's always been the perfect hostess type, smiles, polished, loves to organise big family dinners and nice places to keep everyone together. But beneath all that, she's got this history. We all knew there was bad blood between my mom and her younger sister, my Aunt Marlene 52. The thing is, they never really said why. Family gatherings always had this low-key tension. Like Marlene would shoot little digs and my mom would plaster on that fake grin. I figured it was just sisters being sisters. Anyway, last Saturday we all went out to celebrate my cousin Jacob's engagement. Big deal. Nice restaurant downtown, one of those candlelit places with white tablecloths and way too many forks. It was supposed to be a happy night. My dad Mark, 60, was there, Aunt Marlene came with her husband, and of course Jacob and his fiancée. I came along because Jacob's basically my brother. At first, everything was smooth. We ordered wine, appetizers, the works. But halfway through the meal, I noticed Marlene just watching my mom. Like, laser-focused. And Lisa was doing that nervous laugh thing she does, brushing her hair back constantly. My dad was clueless, joking with Jacob about wedding costs. Then Marlene suddenly says, loud enough for the entire table, "So, Lisa, do you still meet up with him at that little Italian place on 5th? The table went dead silent. Forks mid-air. My mom froze. My dad's smile dropped so fast it was almost comical if it wasn't horrifying. Excuse me? Mom said, voice sharp. Marlene leaned back in her chair like she'd been waiting for this. Don't play dumb. You think you've been so clever sneaking around. I've known about you. For years. I just kept quiet, waiting for the right time. I swear, you could have heard a pin drop. Then my dad's face turned red like boiling. What is she talking about, Lisa? He demanded. My mom stammered. It's not she's twisting things. But Marlene cut her off. Twisting, please. I saw you with him more than once, and don't you dare pretend it was innocent. I've been carrying this secret while you strutted around like you better than the rest of us. Other diners were literally turning in their chairs to watch. The waiter for us mid-step near our table. Jacob's fiancée looked like she wanted to crawl under the table. And me? I felt like my stomach had dropped out of my body. Dad slammed his fist on the table. Hence her meet Lisa. Who the hell is he? Mom's eyes darted around like a trapped animal. That it was years ago. It meant nothing. I ended it. And that's when the night really started spiraling out of control. The second my mom admitted that it was years ago, the whole room shifted. My dad looked like he'd been sucker punched. His face went pale, then dark red, and his jaw clenched so hard I swear I heard his teeth grind. You ended it, he repeated, his voice low and shaking. So it was real. My mom tried reaching for his hand, but he yanked it away. Mark, please, it was a mistake. I swear I have been faithful ever since. Aunt Marlene scoffed. Faithful? Don't make me laugh. You carried on with him for what, 2 years, while Mark worked himself to the bone for this family. I saw you, Lisa, every damn week at that restaurant, acting like you were some lovesick teenager. At this point, other tables were whispering. A couple at the bar had literally swiveled their stools to watch. Jacob muttered, Jesus Christ, under his breath while his fiancée looked like she was about to cry. My dad's voice rose. Who was it? Mom shook her head, whispering, it doesn't matter. It damn well does, he shouted, slamming his fist down so hard the glasses rattled. The waiter flinched and scurried away. And then, because my family can't do drama halfway, Marlene delivered the killing blow. It was Tom, she said flatly. Your business partner. The air got sucked out of the room. My dad just stared at her like he couldn't process words anymore. Tom isn't just some random guy, he's been my dad's closest friend and business partner for over 20 years. He's practically family. My dad whispered, No, that's not possible. Mom buried her face in her hands. Mark, I'm sorry. It was so long ago. I thought if I kept it buried. You thought wrong, he snapped, his voice echoing across the restaurant. I felt like my body was buzzing with electricity. My mind couldn't catch up to what I was hearing. Tom. The man who's been at every Thanksgiving, who coached my soccer games when I was a kid. That Tom? Jacob finally spoke up, trying to calm things down. Look, maybe this isn't the place. Shut up, Jacob, my dad barked, his voice cracking. He turned back to my mom. You let me shake that man's hand every day, break bread with him, trust him with my life, and you were screwing him behind my back. Don't you dare act like I didn't pay a price. Mom suddenly snapped, tears streaming down her face. Do you think I've lived peacefully? Marlene's been holding this over me for years, waiting to humiliate me. I made a mistake. Yes, but I stayed. I raised our kids. I kept this family together. Marlene leaned forward, eyes glittering with pure spite. No, Lisa, you kept up appearances, that's all. You're a fraud, and I'm done letting you play saint. At that point, the manager approached our table, his voice trembling. Sir, ma'am, I'm going to have to ask you to lower your voices or leave. You're disturbing the other guests. But there was no stopping it now. The volcano had erupted, and we were all about to get buried in the lava. By the time the manager stepped in, the entire restaurant had turned into a stage for the most awkward, horrifying family showdown I've ever witnessed. A few people were whispering behind their menus, somewhere of fright staring. You could feel the tension like a thick fog. Mom, still crying, tried to explain herself. Mark, please, I wasn't thinking clearly back then. It was years ago. It doesn't change anything about us now. My dad's hand shook. He leaned back in his chair like he couldn't believe the air he was breathing. Years ago, he repeated, each word punctuated with disbelief. Years ago, and you thought this was okay to just bury while we lived our lives, and he, Tom, my business partner. Marlene smirked, clearly savouring every second. Lisa, you've always been good at hiding your messes, but I've waited for this moment for a decade. I finally get to see you squirm in public. I felt my stomach twist. My mom and Aunt Marlene had always been competitive, but I never imagined it would come to this. And Jacob, he looked like he wanted the floor to swallow him whole. Then, Mom did something I didn't expect. She slammed her hand on the table, making the cutlery jump. Enough. Marlene, you think humiliating me publicly is going to make you feel better? You're just as bitter as the day we fought over Dad's inheritance. The room went completely silent. Even the waitstaff stopped in the middle of their steps. My dad's face was red now, veins bulging on his neck. He pointed a trembling finger at Mom. Lisa, I don't know who you are. I married who? Mom shook her head frantically. I am the woman who raised your children, who kept this family together, who made sacrifices every single day, and I made a mistake. Yes, but it's over. I ended it. Marlene leaned back, crossing her arms smugly. Over? You think confessing now absolves you? I've kept the secret to protect your little world, and now I'm letting it crumble. Enjoy it, Lisa. Jacob finally stood up, his face pale. Mom, Aunt Marlene, this is insane. Please, not here. Not in front of everyone. Just leave her. But Marlene wasn't done. Oh, Jacob, sweetie, you're just like your father. Naive, blind. Lisa, I hope you realize your perfect little life is a lie. At that moment, I saw Mom's shoulder slump, and for the first time in years, she looked genuinely defeated. She wasn't the polished, confident woman we all knew. She was just a human. Vulnerable. Dad stood up abruptly, shoving his chair back. I need air. All of you, stop talking. He stormed out, leaving Mom sobbing and Marlene smirking like she'd won. I hesitated, torn between following my dad and trying to comfort my mom. Eventually, I stayed behind, putting my hand on hers. Mom, it's going to be okay, I whispered, though I had no idea if that was true. At that moment, the manager came back fuming. That's it. Either you leave, or I call the police. And just like that, our family drama spilled from whispered grudges into full-blown public disaster. We left the restaurant in complete silence. Mom was still crying, her makeup smeared down her cheeks, and Dad was ahead of us, pacing the parking lot like he was trying to outrun the betrayal. Marlene followed behind, arms crossed, looking like she'd just won a championship. Jacob and I trailed, speechless, unsure whether to intervene or just survive the aftermath. Mom finally broke the silence. I didn't mean for it to come out like this, she said, voice barely above a whisper. I thought I could keep this buried forever. You thought? Dad's voice was like ice. You knew, Lisa, and you thought it was fine to play house while sneaking around with him. His hand shook. Tom, he's my friend. He's part of this family. I made a mistake. Mom shouted, the tears streaming again. I ended it before it went any further. I stayed. I raised you kids. I don't care. Dad interrupted. It doesn't matter what you stayed for. You lied. You lied to me every day for years. Marlene suddenly piped up, her tone smug, almost predatory. Though, don't pretend like this is all her fault, Mark. Lisa made the mistake. Yes, but she was reckless because of the environment she was living in. Secrets. Lies. Everyone playing nice while you ignored the cracks. That hit Dad hard. He froze, staring at Marlene. So this is your big plan, huh? Ruin her life to satisfy your grudge? Maybe, she said with a shrug. Maybe I just wanted her to feel what it's like to be exposed, humiliated, and powerless because I felt that for decades, Lisa, you know it, you just didn't care. I could see Mom shrink under her gaze. The weight of years, the grudges, the hidden anger, it was all right there in front of us. Jacob stepped in, trying to mediate. Okay, maybe screaming isn't helping anyone. Can we just talk at home, calmly? Mom wiped her face and nodded weakly. Yes, please, I can't handle this here. Let's go home. The drive back was tense. Dad didn't speak. Mom tried, but her words fell flat. Marlene kept repeating her accusations under her breath, occasionally glancing at Dad with satisfaction. Jacob and I exchanged glances in the back seat, both silently agreeing this night would haunt us forever. Once we got home, Dad stormed upstairs, slamming doors behind him. Mom collapsed onto the couch, and I sat beside her, unsure if I could comfort her or if she even wanted it. Mom, I know you made a mistake, but this isn't just about you anymore, I whispered. She shook her head. I know, honey. I never wanted anyone to know. I thought I could bury it, and now it's all out. And Marlene, she's been waiting for this moment her whole life. I can feel it. Jacob finally sighed. We need to figure out how to handle this. Dad's furious, and Marlene isn't stopping. We need a plan. Mom looked at us, her face weary. I don't even know what a plan looks like anymore. I just want the fighting to stop. And in that moment, I realized nothing about this night would be normal again. The secrets, the lies, the long-held grudges, they were all out in the open, and nothing would put the pieces back together easily. The next morning, the tension in the house was palpable. Dad hadn't spoken a word since storming upstairs, and Mom sat at the kitchen table, nursing a cup of coffee like she was preparing for battle. I grabbed mine, trying not to stare at the dark circles under her eyes. Jacob wandered in, running a hand through his hair, clearly stressed. Finally, Mom broke the silence. I think we need to face this head on. Marlene isn't going to stop, and neither is Dad's anger. Avoiding it isn't helping anyone. I nodded slowly. You mean talk to her, directly? Yes, Mom said firmly. I need to take responsibility, and maybe if I do it in person, we can at least get some closure. But I can't do it alone. Jacob and I exchanged glances. He muttered, I'll go. Someone needs to keep her from escalating. By late afternoon, we arrived at Marlene's house. She opened the door immediately, arms crossed, a smirk plastered across her face like she'd been expecting us. Well, look who decided to show up, she said. Mom stepped forward, hands slightly shaking. Marlene, I'm here because I want to talk. I can't change what I did, and I know I hurt you and Dad and all of you. I want to make things right, if that's even possible. Marlene's smirk didn't falter. Make things right, Lisa? You think a simple apology wipes away years of lies, years of pretending? You think admitting it now fixes anything? Jacob stepped in quickly. Marlene, please, we're not here to fight. We just want some kind of resolution before it gets worse. Marlene shook her head, almost laughing. Resolution? There is no resolution. You destroyed trust, Lisa, and Dad, he's furious, and you wonder why. Mom's voice cracked. I know, and I accept that. I want to stop the endless fighting. I don't want this family torn apart completely. Can we at least try to move past this? Marlene stared at her for what felt like an eternity. I could see the anger battling with some tiny shred of compassion in her eyes. Finally, she said, I don't know if we can ever truly forgive this, but maybe we can stop holding it over each other. That's all I'm willing to give right now. Mom exhaled, a mixture of relief and exhaustion washing over her. That's all I'm asking, thank you. Jacob let out a nervous laugh. Okay, small step, one small step. It wasn't a perfect resolution. Dad still hadn't spoken to Mom, and Marlene was still distant, but at least some of the venom that had been simmering for years was slightly diffused. Mom's shoulders relaxed a little, though the weight of guilt and embarrassment lingered. Riding home, Mom finally admitted, "I feel like a part of me died yesterday, but talking to her is the first time I felt like I might survive this." Jacob nodded. "You will, slowly. We all will, but it's going to take time, and patience, and a lot of therapy, probably." Mom gave a tired smile. Therapy might be the least of our worries, but we start somewhere. And somewhere, that tiny step felt like the first real chance at healing. 2 days later, the house felt different. Tense, yes, but quieter in a way that suggested the storm had passed at least for now. Mom was in the kitchen, meticulously cleaning dishes as if scrubbing away the shame from the weekend. I sat at the table, unsure if I should speak first, when Dad finally emerged from his office. He didn't look at Mom. His hands were shoved deep into his pockets, jaw tight. The silence stretched until Mom spoke first, her voice soft and shaky. "Mark, can we talk?" He finally turned, and I saw the exhaustion and rage mix in his expression. "Talk, Lisa, do you really think talking changes anything?" Mom swallowed, trying to steady her voice. "No, I don't, but I can't just sit here pretending nothing happened. I need to take responsibility. I need to..." "Responsibility?" He cut in, voice rising. "You think saying I'm sorry fixes 20 years of lies, 20 years of trust?" His hands shook as he gestured toward her. "Do you know how many times I've looked at Tom and wondered why I ever trusted him, and all the while, you knew. Mom's shoulders sagged. She whispered, "I know, Mark, and I hate myself for it every single day. I stayed, I raised our kids. I tried to do right, but I can't erase the past. I was stupid, selfish, and I hurt you." Dad's eyes glistened, a mix of anger and heartbreak. "You call that trying to do right? Lisa, do you understand what it feels like to have the person you trust most in the world betray you like that?" "Yes," she admitted. "I do, and I'm so sorry. I can't take back what I did. I can only beg you to see that I never stopped loving you, that I never stopped caring for this family." He stepped closer, the tension in his body palpable. "I don't know if I can forgive you, not yet. Maybe not ever, but I see that you're trying, and that matters." Mom's lips trembled as she nodded. "I don't expect forgiveness overnight. I just want a chance to make things right, however small." Dad let out a long, shaky breath. "We'll see. We'll have to rebuild it brick by brick, and it's going to hurt, but maybe, just maybe, we can survive this." I watched them, stunned. Mom's eyes filled with tears, but this time, they weren't just shame, they were relief, a tiny flicker of hope. Dad's face softened slightly, though the anger lingered beneath the surface. Jacob came in quietly, carrying 2 mugs of coffee. "I'll say it for all of us, baby steps. That's all we can do." Mom smiled weakly, taking her mug. "Baby steps," she echoed. For the first time since the restaurant incident, I felt like the house wasn't consumed by chaos. The raw emotions were still there: anger, betrayal, grief, but so was the fragile thread of connection, the possibility of healing. It wasn't over. Nothing about this mess was ever going to be over. But maybe, finally, the family could start picking up the pieces together, one careful step at a time. A week later, things were still awkward, but quieter. Mom had stopped tidying in the kitchen, and Dad was at least speaking to her again, though their conversations were careful, measured. Jacob and I had assumed Marlene would continue her campaign of grudge-fueled attacks, but surprisingly, she reached out herself. She called Mom mid-afternoon. "Lisa," she said flatly, "I don't like this, and I don't forgive easily, but I think we need to talk, for the sake of the family, then I'm willing to meet halfway. Just don't screw it up." Mom nodded, relief mixed with fear. "Thank you, Marlene, I'll do my best." We arranged to meet at the small park near Marlene's house. Not a restaurant this time, no audience, no stage. Just the 4 of us, Mom, Dad, Marlene, and me. Jacob stayed home because he had a work emergency, but he promised to check in by phone. The moment we arrived, Marlene's glare was still sharp, but not venomous. She sat down on the park bench, arms crossed. "So, Lisa, you survived the restaurant humiliation. Impressive," she said, a hint of sarcasm in her tone. Mom sat beside her, shoulders straight but tense. "I survived it because I had no choice, and I'm here to try to rebuild, even if it's only a little." Marlene studied her for a moment, then let out a long breath. "You know, I've hated you for years, not just for but for everything I felt you stole from me: attention, Dad's approval, the perfect life image." I held all that bitterness aside, and it ate me up. Dad, who had been standing slightly apart, finally spoke. "Marlene, I know you felt overshadowed, but holding onto this grudge doesn't help anyone, not Lisa, not the kids, not me. We can't erase the past, but we can choose how we move forward." Marlene's eyes flicked to Dad, then to Mom. Maybe, I'm not promising it's gone, but I don't want to see the family tear apart over old wounds either." Mom reached out tentatively, and Marlene let her hand rest lightly on hers, a small, cautious gesture. I understand," Mom said softly. We all sat there for a while in silence. The tension hadn't disappeared, but it was different now, quieter, less sharp. It wasn't perfection, it was the start of something. A fragile truce, built on honesty and a willingness to face pain together. On the drive home, Mom finally allowed herself a small smile. "It feels like maybe we can breathe again," she said. Dad glanced at her, cautious but softer. "Breathing is a start. Rebuilding, that's the hard part, but we'll try." I looked in the rearview mirror at Mom, her eyes reflecting relief, exhaustion, and the faintest spark of hope. Family had been shattered by lies, betrayal, and years of hidden grudges. But for the first time in a long time, it felt like maybe we could start putting it back together, piece by piece. It wasn't the end of the drama, not by a long shot, but it was a beginning.